Hi, I'm Dan, this is our Midlife Crisis Motorcyclist, and welcome to EICMA 2025, the giant motorcycle trade show here in Milan, and what feels like another rite of passage in my motorcycling story, because I've never been to this show before, but I'm told it is the biggest show of its type in the world, a lot bigger than dear old MCL at the NEC. So I'm interested to see what it has in store. Plenty of walking, so I'm told. It is a gigantic event. I've just arrived. This is the press day, so it's just gone 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to head over to Royal Enfield here, which is one of the first press conferences of the day, to see what they've got in store. And then the plan is to maybe just do a quick roundup, give you a flavour of a first-timer's taste of EICMA, maybe pick out some of the highlights of what we see and what's going on. So yeah, we'll head over to Royal Enfield now, see what they have to show, and I'll report back in a little bit. Right, so that was the Royal Enfield press conference. Some interesting stuff, not the promised Himalayan 750 that people were rumouring, but instead we've got this Flying Flea S6. This is a more kind of motocrossy, kind of off-road inspired version of the Flying Flea electric bike, which Royal Enfield launched here last year. I'll go and have a look at that in a second as well, but this is same sort of thing, but with more suspension, travel, knobbly tyres, all that kind of thing. So a bit of a twist on Royal Enfield's electrification journey. Other bikes we've got here include the Bullet 650 Twin, which is kind of like the classic 650 Twin we've already ridden, but revives the Bullet name into a bigger capacity bike. It's got a twin seat, things like that, whereas the classics usually seen with a single seat. Over here we've also got a special anniversary version of the classic 650 Twin, celebrating 125 years of Royal Enfield. And then if we rumble over here, hopefully find the gap in the people, we have the Himalayan Mana Black, M-A-N-A. So this is basically a version of the Himalayan with basically all the rally accessories. So you've got the enduro seat on the back, various kind of other off-roady kind of upgrades to it. It's not the 750 Himalayan we were promised, or people were talking about at least, but it's just a new model variant to add to the range. So that's an interesting addition. Now they've also been working on an electric Himalayan apparently, which has been a big focus for the brand and their kind of future developments. Electrification is a big thing for Royal Enfield, which is interesting because it's known as a brand building classic bikes, but in fact things like this Flying Flea, a customised version of which you see here, are a really big deal for Royal Enfield, and they're talking a lot about it, even if they're not quite there in the market yet with them. It's a big focus for where the brand is going. You can see the S6 again here behind me, and if we walk round over here, we can see the C6, which is the kind of regular Flying Flea, and is actually quite a cool little product. Just barge your way through here. So yeah, this is the regular Flying Flea here, which is, it's kind of a urban mobility type thing, so it's a bit like the Maving, I guess, in a way, in terms of what the kind of audience it's pitched to, but it's clearly a much more modern looking bike. It's got some very neat features like this linkage fork at the front, aluminium frame, all that kind of stuff. So it's a cool looking bike, and as I say, very decisively not retro, which is interesting for Royal Enfield because it's known as a retro brand. But yeah, Flying Flea and the other electric bikes very much looking to the future. Anyway, that was Royal Enfield. Let's have a wander around, see what else is at the show. So it's quite a short hop from Royal Enfield over to Triumph, and there's quite a lot to see here on the stand. So a lot of new models for 2026, including this, the new Trident 800, clue in the name, but it's quite a big upgrade from the 660, which we know and love. It's now got the 800cc engine from the Tiger Sport 800, meaning 115 horsepower, which should seriously upgrade the Trident's speed and ability, so turns it more into a bit of an XSR 900 rival. So that's going to be an exciting bike to ride. I look forward to trying that out. But perhaps of great significance are the changes to the modern classics bikes, which you see behind me here, and I'm going to be riding in the not too distant future, which I'm very much looking forward to. But basically the overview for the modern classics is like the Bonneville T100 that you see here. They've had upgrades to their electronics now, so they've got things like cruise control, cornering ABS and traction, things like that. So yes, and although they look pretty similar, they haven't messed with the formula, which people will be glad to know. They've just got a bit more modern tech on them, so they still look retro, but yeah, just a little bit more up to date in terms of the bits on them. So you'll see the bobber here. This now has traction control and cruise control as standard. Same for the Speedmaster that you see here, which is obviously based on the same platform as the bobber. Apparently a very big seller, the bobber, seemingly, which perhaps is surprising given it's such a sort of specialist bike. One of the other significant upgrades is to the 900, the Scrambler 900, which is a popular bike with London hipsters, but this has had some of the more significant mechanical changes for all the modern classics. So you can see here it's gone from the conventional forks to a much fancier upside down shower. They've also added all the rider aids and things like that that you get on the other modern classics, and at the back there's now an aluminium swing arm. So whereas the original Scrambler 900 Street Scrambler as it was a kind of road bike with Scrambler clubber on it, they've now made it decisively a little bit more off-road focused, got some of the kind of attitude and style and off-road ability of the bigger 1200. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But certainly the 900 is a more serious looking bike now. Whether the fan base like this switch to gold upside down forks, I'll be interested to hear about that. Let's have a chat in the comments about that, whether that's the right move or not. But there've also been some changes to the big 1200, which is very interesting as well, because if you remember, the range was updated, so they dropped the XC and they introduced the more road optimized X, and at the same time they sort of downgraded the big XE that you see here with some Marzocchi suspension. That apparently didn't go down well with owners who liked the fancier Showa and Öhlins combination of the previous XE, and that's what this bike has now returned to. So the price goes up a little bit, I think, but yeah, it's now got the full fancy suspension on it again because this is the premium Scrambler model and people wanted it to look the part and have the bits to live up to that. So yeah, quite a lot going on in the Triumph Modern Classics range, and look forward to riding all these bikes very soon. But now it's probably time to head over to Norton and see what is going on over there. Right, so welcome to Norton, where the press conference launching the Manx and the Atlas is now going ahead. It's one of the amusing things about trade shows is that literally the last people in the world to see these bikes are the people here at the show, because the press conference was, I think, 15 minutes late and all the embargoed content had already gone up. So if you wanted to see what the Manx and the Atlas looked like, you just had to look on a computer or phone rather than be here at the show. But now this is the moment that the covers come off the bikes officially, and the head designer Simon Skinner is talking the people around the bikes now. So, but we've already seen them. You can click the link to my video from the preview event last night and see all about the bikes there. But perhaps what's more interesting while that's going on is to head over to the TVS stand. TVS Motor, of course, being the money behind Norton and what's going on over there on the Norton stand. And as you can see, this little known brand to people outside of India has a whole range of motorbikes, scooters, e-bikes, things like that, and the scale of this business is just absolutely off the charts. So their production capacity every year is 7 million bikes of all sorts. So just to give you a sense of the scale of TVS, and as I say, where that money for Norton is coming from, that £200 million investment which is going into the manufacturing in Solihull. It starts here with e-bikes, scooters and all that kind of thing being sold in their millions to the Indian market. Anyway, there we go. Like I say, you can see all about the Manx R and Atlas over on the separate video that I've already done. Time to hit the show floor and see what else is going on. Right, so I thought I'd head over to Ducati and see what's going on there. Obviously, home show for these guys, so it's going to be a big deal, and I can show you all the amazing bikes there. Oh, yeah, they're all still under covers because Ducati being Ducati, their press conference isn't until 7 o'clock this evening. So it's a relaxed day at the Ducati stand. Nothing much to see here for now, but we will no doubt have plenty to enjoy later on. We do know about the new Monster. We know about various other bikes that are coming as well. So we've got the Panigale V4R and Multistrada Rally, I think, as well. So there seem to be more bikes here under the covers, so there'll probably be more to talk about later on. So let's go somewhere else now, and we'll come back here later. Right, so welcome to Honda, which at first glance I thought might be a little bit boring. There's certainly a lot of bikes here covering an awful lot of different bases, but actually in typical Honda fashion, as soon as you start digging a little deeper, it gets a lot more interesting. So one of the really curious bikes here is this WN7 electric roadster. So this is an all-electric bike. It's kind of, I guess, aimed at the kind of 125cc market. It's got two power options. You can have it in 11 kilowatts, so 15 horsepower CBT friendly form, or you could have it in 18 kilowatts, so I think that's what, 24 horsepower or so. Range on it is about 150 kilometers they're claiming, so what's that, about 90 miles or so, isn't it? So decent range, quirky looks. It looks very kind of futuristic, doesn't it? So it's got a cool style about it. Here's another one in another color which shows off the styling a little more clearly. So it's a kind of an urban friendly, it's a proper motorbike, isn't it? It's got single-sided swing arm. So yeah, it's a nice looking bike, that. Interesting. The only downside really is, inevitably, happens a lot with electric bikes, is the cost. So just on the little information tab there, it says it costs, I think, just over 15,000 euros here in Italy. So that's 9 grand or so, isn't it? That's a lot for a 125 style bike. But moving on, here we have an interesting cutaway of the quirky V3 cylinder bike with the electric compressor, which it means it's a turbo which is powered by an electric motor, so it doesn't need exhaust gases to spool up, so no lag. I'll show you more on that in a second as we go around the stand, because they've actually got now a prototype bike with a version of that engine in, and it looks really, really cool. But this is what I mean, when you get onto the Honda stand, there's just a lot of bikes and it's quite difficult to get your head around exactly what there is. But this is the prototype of that bike with the V3 and the electric compressor, and it's pretty badass looking, isn't it? So you can only imagine what it sounds like with an engine like that. So we'll be seeing more of that in due course, I'm sure. We'll just wriggle around to the front here, get a front view of it. So yeah, there it is. Cool looking bike, but that's not the only thing. So here we have an expansion of Honda's e-clutch technology, which I've ridden previously on the CB650. That's now rolling out across other bikes in the range, including the Hornet 750. That's the bike that I learnt on, of course. And then over here we have a couple of interesting things. So this is the CB1000 GT, which on the face of it is a boring looking bike, but it isn't really, because this is based on the Hornet CB1000. So it's a Fireblade engine sports tourer, effectively. So that's going to be quite an interesting proposition. See if it's priced as punchily as the Hornet CB1000. And then next to it we have this lovely retro CB1000F, which is pretty cool as well. So as I say, it's the kind of beauty of Honda, isn't it, that you walk onto this giant stand surrounded by bikes and you think, there's not much there really, but actually when you start digging a little deeper, it gets a lot more interesting, and the brand's reputation for doing quirky and pioneering engineering, but in a quite understated fashion, seems to ring true. So bravo Honda, keep being Honda. Right, so I made it over here to Suzuki, and they've got some cool stuff on the stand, including the GSX-8T, which I've not seen in the metal before, but looks really cool, especially in that retro livery. Really keen to have a go with that. But the bike that's kind of caught people slightly by surprise is this SV7GX, which uses the old SV650V twin, an engine which even the Suzuki press material describes as somewhat legendary, perhaps referring to its age. But that's a cool engine to have in this style of bike in a world of parallel twins and things like that. So, characterful, charismatic engine. It's got 73 horsepower in this application, and in this kind of tour-rounder, adventure tourer type format, I guess it goes up against the likes of the Yamaha Tracer 7, maybe the Triumph Tiger Sport 660, which I was riding relatively recently. It's down on power a little bit compared with that, but it's standard kind of tour-rounder type machine, but it looks pretty cool with that engine. Quite an interesting combination. It seems to have caught people slightly by surprise, pleasantly, I would say. So there's a quick overview of Suzuki. Let's see what else we've got further into the show. Right, so I've made it over to Yamaha, where we have the new and upgraded R7. So while it looks pretty similar to what went before, it's got a load of electronic updates on it now. So it's kind of brought it up to the standard of the R9. So it's got now 6-axis IMU, wheelie control, traction control, and then engine braking management, data logging, all that kind of stuff that its big brother the R9 has, you can now get on the R7 as well. Other than that, it's the same CP2 engine, same power output, things like that, but just a slightly sharper and more technologically advanced bike. So a lot of it's big bike tech in a small, compact little sports bike. And then this is a massive stand here at Yamaha. Every which version of Tenere you could ever possibly wish for. And then over here, can't leave the stand without admiring the new colour scheme on the XSR 900 GP. Obviously it was kind of known for its Marlboro style colour scheme previously. Here's one without somebody sat on it. So now we have it in this Kenny Roberts inspired yellow and black. Looks even cooler. Which would you have? Not Marlboro or Kenny Roberts? Let's have a chat in the comments thread about that. Right, now on to the next one. Right, so I've made it over to BMW, where the main event on the stand here is the 450 GS, the new baby GS. Seems very popular with the brigade of people who like to get on motorbikes and make broom-broom noises at motorbike shows. Yep, doing brisk business here, but this is a really cool little addition to the GS family. So it's a 48 horsepower twin, so you should be able to ride it on an A2 license. It's got the kind of the GS look about it. It looks very distinctive. It's a nice little mini adventure bike. Weighs 178 kilos, so it's a pretty competitive weight. And it's a stylish looking bike. It's got all the kind of GS signatures that you would hope for. So it's got the nice big exposed spring down here, tubular steel frame, some nice accessories like these canvas panniers and things like that. You can get it in the BMW Motorsport colours as well. So it looks pretty nifty in those colours. Some very high-rise bars on the front there. So yeah, it's a cool looking bike, and I can understand the excitement about that one. Be interesting to see how much it costs. Also on the stand is this rather lovely looking R12 GS, which I've not ridden yet, but I'd very much like to try, and the F900R, which I am getting in very soon for a bit of a razz, so looking forward to that. So yeah, there's a little flavour of BMW. Some cool stuff, yet another GS in the family. Yeah, some cool stuff. Right, now on to BSA, I think. Right, so I've made it to BSA, which actually had a new bike to show. So as well as the little Bantam 350 here, which is something I've not tried yet, but looks really good in the metal, a bit more substantial than you might expect for a little 350 single. So there, that looks really good. Hope to try one of those sometime soon. But BSA's big launch is this, the Thunderbolt. So it's now got an adventure bike. So this is also based on a 350 single. It's got 29 horsepower. So it looks comparable to a Royal Enfield Himalayan in a lot of ways. So slightly less power than the 450 that I'm running now on the channel. You might have seen a video on that recently, but comparable. 200mm of suspension travel, relatively light. I think they're saying about 178 kilos, and it looks properly off-road capable and quite tough. It looks quite an appealing bike. So again, like the Himalayan, it's got a style of its own. It doesn't try and look like a regular adventure bike. So not retro, but yeah, just a bit quirky and cool. So that's interesting. So, and also we've got the Scrambler here as well, which is another bike I've not yet ridden, but quite fancy having a go on. So yeah, things going on at BSA. In fact, things going on all over the show. Like I say, it's enormous here, and there are brands that you just haven't even heard of before. So there's so much to take in. So having done BSA, I'm going to have a bit of a wander around and see what else I can find. So there we go, that was my whistle-stop tour of EICMA 2025. I'm now back at the Norton stand, so sort of back where this journey started, this journey to Milan, with the new and refreshed Norton range of bikes behind me. It's been interesting hearing people's reaction to them, both online and in comments to my YouTube video, and chatting with people at the show. It's definitely one of the biggest launches here. So barely scratched the surface of what there is to see at the show. So forgive me if I missed anything obvious, but I just sort of called it as I saw it, went around, saw what I was interested in, kicked a few tyres, saw some interesting bikes. I hope you enjoyed the quick overview of what there is to see here at EICMA. Plenty more to enjoy in the coming months from this and from MCL in the NEC as well. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the bikes. What was your favourite out of the ones that you saw in the video? Let me know in the comments thread below. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit like. And for now, I'll say goodbye, thanks for watching, and ride safe. I think I need another espresso.